ที่มาของหนังสือเล่มนี้ค่ะพระอาจารย์ว่าทำไมพระอาจารย์ถึงมีหนังสือเล่มนี้
Well, there are huge number of people from all over the world who come to visit Thailand every year, and many of them are interested in Buddhism, or at least have some questions about Buddhism and Buddhist culture in Thailand. Some of them read books on Buddhist teachings before they come, but when they arrive, there tends to be quite a gap between what they read in books and what they see, especially in temples in Bangkok. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to find any simple and direct explanation. So I felt it a shame that in Thai hotel rooms that we lack something equivalent to the Gideon Bible. Certainly Buddhism is a rather different religion than Christianity, but nevertheless I thought it would be useful to have some kind of book which you don't need to read from cover to cover, but which you could just flick through and look at the answers to particular questions that might interest people on holiday visiting Thailand. So this was the concept, to produce a book of questions and answers which would be useful to short-term visitors to the country, and which could be placed in hotel rooms throughout the country.
อันนี้เป็นคำถามนะคะให้พี่เล็กถามค่ะเดี๋ยวจะหาเสียงมาอีกที
What does Buddhism teach about the nature of happiness?
อันนี้อยู่ในหนังสือไหมฮะ
ที่หมายถึงว่า
อยากให้เป็นขออนุญาตให้พระอาจารย์ตอบค่ะแล้วก็พอตอบเสร็จแล้วเนี่ยตอนสุดท้ายเนี่ยเราจะเขียนว่ามาจากคำถามเนี่ยมาจากหน้าไหนของหนังสือเล่มนี้ค่ะ
เอาแล้วแต่มาไม่จำไม่ได้แล้วว่าเขียนอยู่ในนั้น
ไม่ต้องอยู่ในหนังสือได้ไหม
คะก็ได้สิฮะแต่คือมันจะคล้ายแต่ก็ไม่ตรงแต่ถ้าว่าบอกว่าแล้วมันมาจากหนังสือเล่มนี้หน้านี้แล้วก็คำพูดอาตมากับเนื้อหาไม่ตรงกันนะ
ค่ะคือถ้าอย่างนั้นเขียนว่าสามารถไปอ่านในคำถามอื่นๆที่สำคัญเกี่ยวกับชีวิตเพิ่มเติมได้ในหนังสือเล่มนี้ได้ไหมคะอาจารย์อันนี้เหมือนเป็นคำถามตัวอย่างอะไรแบบนี้
โอเค
What does Buddhism teach about the nature of happiness?
Well, I think that it's not controversial at all to say that we all aspire to be happy. We all wish to be happy, but our understanding of what happiness is varies quite a lot, and I think very few people have really thought about it very much. So in Buddhism we're interested to look at our experience and try to understand our experience more clearly, so as to give us some guidelines for how to cultivate happiness in our life, because our capacity for happiness is not limited, and that for an undeveloped or an untrained mind, our experience of happiness tends to be very much focused on stimulation of the senses, and that's a rather short-term and unsatisfactory and unreliable kind of happiness, and may often lead to many problems in its wake. But when we consider acts of giving, sharing, and goodness, we can see that also produces a feeling where we could say happiness, but it's of a rather different nature to the happiness that we experience through the pleasures of the senses. And it feels a more elevated kind of happiness, and one without shadows attached, and the happiness of giving and sharing without expectation of reward is a happiness which stays with us for a long time. So in comparing these two kinds of happiness, we can, I think, say that the happiness of giving and sharing is superior in that it is more reliable, is more stable. It does not involve chasing after things which are unreliable, or which may involve some conduct which we regret afterwards. So in other words, the less conditioned our experience of happiness is, then the more reliable it is and the more fulfilling it is. Similarly, by being very careful and scrupulous about our actions and our speech, trying to create a family, a community in which all those around us feel safe and secure, and in which we can inspire trust. That gives also a real sense of happiness and fulfillment, of self-respect, and a lack of guilt and remorse over our actions. So now we've got three kinds of happiness already. Happiness that arises from enjoyment of the senses, happiness of giving and sharing and goodness, happiness of restraining our conduct in order to create safe, harmonious environments. But the higher kinds of happiness are to be found through the purification of the heart, and finding means of guarding the mind against and of reducing and eliminating negative mental states such as greed, hatred and delusion. So that the more the mind becomes freed from its addiction to negative mental states, then the more a very pure and wonderful kind of happiness starts to arise, not through a particular kind of experience, but through the nature of the heart itself. The highest kind of happiness, from Buddhist point of view, comes when those inner negative mental states, or what we call defilements, are completely eliminated, and then the mind is liberated from these mental states. It enjoys an experience that we could compare to good health, in the sense that there is nothing at all which can disturb or undermine it. So our capacity to realize happiness, our understanding of happiness, is conditioned by the level to which we train and educate our mind.
What is the best way to deal with stress?
With
Stress.
stress. Well, I think we need to distinguish between stress and pressure. There are always going to be periods in our life when we're under pressure for one reason or another.